Since the beginning of competitive gaming, there have been tier lists. They weren't as formal as they are now, but they did exist. Think back to playing games with your friends when you were kids. Did you hate your buddy for picking Fox? Or call the Akuma player a cheater? Or refuse to play with that cheese-loving piece of shit who kept picking Odd Job because you told him that if he did, you'd show him what slappers only really looked like? Well, if you can relate to any of that, you've probably been burned by an S-tier character. Video games have always featured characters or strategies that are simply just better. But these days, tier lists aren't just for video games. They've extended beyond them into contentious subjects like movies, breakfast cereals, and yes, even vegetables.
Yo, celery's a fucking shit tier vegetable, man.
Are you fucking kidding me, Rosen? Celery's godlike.
Is someone talking shit about celery?
Anyway, the first tier lists were a lot less in-depth than those of today. A character was either the best in the game or just part of the mediocre rabble.
Tier lists have been around since the beginning of time, since the original Street Fighter 2. Everyone knew Guile was the best. Everyone knew Dawson was the only one who could really fight him. And so tier lists have been around forever. You saw Guiles all over the place. It's just tier lists were super obvious because fighting games were not balanced back in the day and there weren't that many characters. So it was very, very straightforward.
Characters like M. Bison in Street Fighter 2 CE, Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat 1, and Pikachu in Smash 64 so thoroughly dominated their games on release that creating a total hierarchy of characters below them seemed unnecessary. However, as the years went on and games started being designed and balanced around competitive play, actual tier lists started to take shape on early internet forums. As the popularity of tier lists grew, people began to base their character choices on who the top tiers were, leading to disparaging terms like tier whore, someone who exclusively plays the best characters.
Excuse me, I am not a whore.
Conversely, there are players who choose bad characters because they recognize that these rejects offer a win-win scenario.
A lot of people think that I love Cammy because waifu, and I'm just like, oh, she's like, no, it's because she sucked in Super Turbo. She's the worst character in Super Turbo, and I wanted to be good at the worst character in the game because it's the option select. Because if you win, you're like, I beat you with a shitty character, right? What if you lose, you're like, my character's bad anyway, so you're supposed to win.
With that being said, there are players who specifically pick awful characters with more serious intentions. They want to prove that they can succeed even with a perceived handicap. Just look at Super Smash Bros. Melee player Jeffrey Axe Williamson, who plays Pikachu, a character that's widely being considered mid or low tier for most of that game's existence. Axe refused to conform to the established meta, and through his dedication over the years, he's taken everyone's favorite yellow rat to incredible heights.
Up smash, Thunder, 85, he's on stage, is your Smash Summit 8 champion!
Axe did it!
He's done it!
A Pikachu has won a major Smash Summit 8!
Oh my
After a year of second place victories and almost year for Axe, he does it!
Years and years of being
He's
on
done
the
it.
verge.
He did it!
But not all low tiers fare as well as Pikachu. Over in Street Fighter, Dan Hibiki is a perennial joke. He was originally conceived as a weird sort of fuck you to rival fighting game series King of Fighters, and Capcom has intentionally made every iteration of him low tier. And as a result, Dan has essentially become the king of BM in Street Fighter.
Oh God! Respect! Oh God! Just respect everybody.
Longtime players gravitate towards him because they recognize that dishing out beatdowns with Dan is the ultimate insult.
This is definitely a mindfuck play by Justin.
I told you! 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 Low forward! Tie in the Su Ultra! I told you!
Eventually, as players around the world began to make their own lists, the tiers solidified in their respective games. In the days of Street Fighter 4, Japanese tier lists in particular carried a lot of weight.
I think the first time I seen tier lists was probably Japan. They were ranking like Street Fighter 4. I would say that's the first time I seen tier lists for that. And they're like, then everyone's like, oh, like this character's the best, this character sucks, this character's mid tier.
Although some people took Japanese tier lists as holy scripture, others realized that as games became more balanced, character rankings really were just subjective.
For me, tier lists will never be gospel. Like, it's always going to be based on opinion, and they're always going to be affected by that person's personal experience. As I said earlier, people say they should use it as a guide, and everybody's going to have a different opinion.
What made the Japanese tier lists unique, though, was that the very top tier wasn't A tier, it was S tier. Which begs the question, what does the S even stand for? Is it super? Is it sexy? Is it spoken? Basically, no one actually knows for sure what the S in S tier stands for, but it's used and accepted anyway. What we do know, however, is that it comes from a variety of Japanese games, which often put S ranks above A for especially skilled players. There are plenty of theories about the origins of S rank and S tier though, including that Japanese schools made C the lowest passing grade, and S ranks were invented so games had a wider variety of passing grades for the best players. But we couldn't find a source to confirm that, so it appears the S doesn't mean shit.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it.
These days, whenever a new fighting game comes out, people immediately start bickering over the tier list, even though it's often way too early to actually know how good any character is. Those early tier list discussions tend to give way to more concrete ones, but even those aren't necessarily ironclad.
I feel like K. Rool is being slept on by almost every single person in the community. This character is so good. He is so strong and does so much damage.
I feel like King K. Rool is now, in my opinion, at least the worst heavy out of all the ones in the game, because I feel like King K. Rool in general is just a big gimmick.
Tier lists can tell you which character is most likely to win a given tournament, or who has the best matchup spread, but in truth, they don't guarantee anything. And there's no better example of the fallibility of tier lists than Rongchu's run to glory at 2018's Tekken World Tour Finals. His character, a 9-foot-tall panda bear, is considered pretty mediocre on most tier lists. But Rongchu's understanding of her strengths and weaknesses helped him surprise plenty of players who just didn't expect to face it in a high-level tournament setting.
He's so solid, with such a weird character. The character's like the opposite of solid.
To put the ridiculousness of Rongchu's achievement into perspective, even Tekken 7's producer couldn't believe it.
Panda. Panda. Really?
But despite their obvious flaws, tier lists in recent years have expanded their influence into mainstream culture. Because people just love to rank things. Enter Justin Wong, who has become the notorious king of tier lists. Outside of being known as one of the best fighting game players of all time, Justin has found a knack for putting together tier lists that incite shitstorms online.
There's so many things great about McDonald's. Their French fries, the greatest of all time, French fries. Their sweet and sour sauce, possibly the greatest of all time as well. Their chicken nuggets, possibly the greatest of all time as well.
He's got a point.
Fuck him, what's the next one say?
His first foray into the tier list world was a ranking of fast food chains, which resulted in pretty much nothing but negative feedback. He followed that up with a dessert tier list, which once again got a pretty awful reception, but that only encouraged him. Justin's true crime came on May 4th of 2019, when he released a tier list of WWE wrestlers. And let me tell you something, this one is an embarrassment. Half these guys don't even belong on the list. I mean, gold dusted B tier? That man's an OG Attitude Era legend. You got to put some respect on his name.
Remember the name.
When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
So how does Justin defend himself? Well, the thing is, he doesn't think he has to, because he firmly believes that he's always right.
I guess they just don't understand just pure greatness of knowledge. That's what it really comes down to. But, it's fun. People love it. People hate it. People want to be part of it.
Okay, so in reality, Justin knows as well as anyone that tier lists are just opinions. But he also understands that people love to argue about anything, and that's something he will gladly take advantage of.
So I decided to think about like all the times where I grow up and I'm like cereals, cartoons, like, you know, movies or whatever. Anything that kind of, I guess, other people can relate to. Like I could talk about like frame data all day, but that doesn't mean everyone else that follows me understands that. So I want to have more of an engaging conversation. But I guess it turned out that my facts are actually, you know, just too factual for them.
What Justin Wong has been doing with tier lists has been genius. I mean, Justin obviously is starting to brand himself and do his own thing, and so making these tier lists and getting everybody so upset is like genius right now.
Justin Wong, as it turns out, is a social media genius. And to follow in his footsteps, I made a tier list of my own. That's right, I did the impossible. I ranked every single esport. Check this shit out. Now some of you may be wondering, why is my favorite game so low? The game I hate is above a worse game. And to you I say, sorry, but this is just my completely factual tier list. For those of you also wondering why I cut it off at SS tier, it's because I wanted to make sure you were ready for the truth. The best esports game of all time, the one true SSS tier, it's Farming Simulator 19.
Wow.
Yep.
But why is Fortnite?
Fortnite isn't an esport. Don't you read the comments, Matt?
If you send me $100, I'm gonna send you Christ tears in the mail. And I'm not talking about his tier list, I'm talking about his tears.
And Rosen, you're out of your fucking mind, dude. We're shooting something. This is a shot. I have a mic on.